Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Marcus Räder on the line, and he is founder and CEO of Hostaway. Marcus, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Marcus. So excited to learn more about Hostaway today. So an all-in-one vacation rental solution. So I want to go further into that. And also, your background as an entrepreneur and how you got started. But before we do that, let's start this episode the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So Marcus, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Marcus, what mission matters to you?
Well, here at Hostaway, we partner with property managers in the growth of their business by providing solutions to achieve their goals. More specifically, what that means is we provide the best vacation rental software. And our vision is to be the market leader in the short-term rental industry, loved by property managers globally. And this is something that we're in fact getting so close to our vision that we probably need to reshape it to something bigger soon, but we're still on an amazing growth trajectory right now.
That's awesome. Love bringing mission-based individuals and entrepreneurs in line to share, why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and really what we can all learn and gain from accessing their journey. So great to have you on. And I guess just to get us kicked off, Marcus, tell me a little bit more about your background. Like, how did you get started as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I have a confession to make. I've only worked in startups my entire life.
Wow, so that's unique. That's a good vantage point. Go ahead.
Yeah. I have absolutely no experience in any company bigger than 100 employees. Many companies that I've left after the exciting stage, they have since grown to even thousands of employees. But I never worked in a company with more than 100 employees. We're about to cross the threshold here at Hostaway. What really got me excited was I made a big decision with my wife to move to Canada about 7 years ago, and I had already reached a stage in my career where I wasn't really applying for jobs. I was more interviewing companies, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And I found this one company that I thought I wanted to work with, but it didn't click on the interview. And that's when I thought, this is silly. I should be the one running the show. And that's exactly what I did. So I started from scratch. I was lacking a lot of the infrastructure that you need to found a successful software business. One of the greatest assets you can have is a solid mentoring network, and if you can have at least a couple of million on your bank account, it will really, really help you down the road. But I didn't have any of that, so I had to build everything from scratch. And we decided to focus on the short-term rental sector, because back in 2015, Airbnb was really taking off. And when we started interviewing companies that were operating in space, we found that they were missing tools, software tools that most other industries were taking as granted. And they were just completely missing because the entire industry was quite new at the time. And we decided to start building those. And now 7 years later, we're building them. We're still building them.
What an amazing story. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening to this and would be entrepreneurs, maybe people that want to go down that path. Like, what do you think was kind of the difference maker here in you starting? Because as you mentioned, you had some things stacked against you, right? It wasn't necessarily an easy path in the beginning. Like, what are some things that you think made a difference in your and made you success in this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because in the last couple of years, I've been mentoring a lot of other startups, and I've learned about a lot of luck and timing that we had that we didn't know at the time. But one example is a very simple thing that every pitch deck should have. It's a problem and a solution. And for many years, we went to investors and we were trying to make it very complex. But it turns out our problem and solution was the simplest you could ever find, especially when it comes to software. Because what these people were looking for was software to manage their Airbnb. And the solution that we could offer was Airbnb software. It was really that simple. And I haven't still met a startup that has such a simple problem and solution. And you think, of course, the other aspect is, okay, you can solve any problem, but it needs to be big enough. So the first thing I did before I even came up with a name for the company and before I even had a co-founder, I put an ad on Facebook and I asked, are you looking for Airbnb management software? Click here. And I got hundreds of signups. I borrowed $200 from my wife. And I called all of them, and they confirmed that, yes, they were indeed looking for software. And what they wanted the software to do was fairly similar. They wanted to track who's coming and going, manage their cleaning, set their rates, do their marketing, content. They wanted to do the accounting. And the solution that they were looking for was something that didn't really exist on the market. So that was one thing that we had going for us that was pretty good, that the problem and the solution was fairly simple. That doesn't mean that it was easy to convey the message to investors. I've had a lot of investors who, I think the worst one was where we pitched for half an hour and then the guy said, yeah, I stayed in an Airbnb once. I didn't like it. I don't believe in this. And, that's just half an hour of wasted time on both sides. But it turns out he was wrong, and Airbnb was able to IPO during a pandemic with many parts of the world locked down for travel. So I'm very glad we had that. And another thing that really helped us was something that I see, this is especially in the B2B SaaS space, is that there's a problem with defining the category. Because when you have a tool, especially a very highly specialized tool that accomplishes one task, there's no category really to compete in, because you're competing against spreadsheets, you're competing against maybe a team of professionals, you might be competing against a law firm or competing against an accountancy firm. We were in a category that did exist. Today it's called vacation rental software. But it existed already back then, which meant that the people who are looking for this type of solutions, they actually know what to search for. Let's say you wanted to automate your legal processes in your company. When you type that into Google, you'll find ads, you'll find a bunch of blog posts from law firms. It would be very hard to find a category to even be listed on, because there's not a critical mass of people looking for that. But because our problem and solution were both so software centered, and it was big enough market to actually have a category, we were very lucky in that we didn't have to struggle with that. And that's what I see now. A lot of B2B SaaS softwares, they are so specific at what they're doing, and what they're doing is the best, but nobody can find them because they don't know what to look for.
Makes total sense. And when you talk about timing and things like that, I know some people listen to this and be like, what? Especially the people that maybe were already in the software space, right? Or had maybe products, I won't say that are similar, but there were other, type of real estate management softwares and solutions out there for maybe not that particular market, but I'm sure there's got to be some people out there that were kicking themselves like, wait a minute, there was this whole other market here. So I get the timing part, but not to glance over what it took to execute. Easier said than done, right? So tell me a little bit more about that part of the journey, what it took to build and to gain traction.
Well, that was one of the most fun parts, because when from previous startups, one of the things we really wanted to avoid was failure, because it sounds like a cliche, but failure.
I was going to say, I feel like everybody that wants to have hope. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, but one of the reasons why startups fail is that they try something and then they have to pivot, and we had to do that as well. But as you pivot, you might find yourself suddenly in a sector that has no barriers of entry, and maybe that's why you're there as well. So before we even set this up, when we run through the business plan, we wanted to make sure that we set up a healthy challenge for ourselves. We wanted to get into an industry that had the highest possible barriers of entry. And that's why we like this so much, because in order to build software for, let's say, that connects to Airbnb, you have to be able to connect with Airbnb. Well, at the time, nobody was able to do that. You could go knock on any door you wanted, and if you were lucky, after many years, Airbnb will tell you to go away. And the same goes for all the other OTAs, Expedia, Vrbo, Booking.com. But we really believed that one day they'll not only open the door, they'll beg us to step in. And in fact, today, they're not only are we preferred and elite partners of these massive companies, but they're even paying us money for the work that we're doing, because we're bringing them the one thing they need to conduct their business, which is inventory. And that was the vision all along. But we wanted to make sure there's massive barriers of entry. And I think I spent around 3 years of my life just knocking on the door of Airbnb just to get someone to talk to. And I did, after about 2 years, people started talking to me, but I got the answers that I expected, which was to go away. And that was one of the most enjoyable times, because, but those barriers of entry, they remain today. If you wanted to start a competitor in this space, it's going to be very, very hard to enter still today, because now they say the doors are open, but only if you're a massive company. But most startups that start out, they're not massive.
Yeah, no, it's a great story, and to go through, years of rejection and to work on a problem and to have no guarantee that you were going to be able to connect, right? So like you just had to, and what kept you strong during that time? Because that couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, it certainly.
There's no guarantee. Like they could have continued to say no, right? Like they could have.
Yes and no. I think so one of the things we set up right from the beginning is we asked ourselves, why do we believe in this, and not perhaps in the idea of just vacation rental software, because that can pivot, but why do we believe in the whole idea of, it was called home sharing, short-term rentals, vacation rentals, and we identified a couple of trends that we thought were extremely strong. So one of them is globalization. People are able to move around the world. And also remote work, which, well, ironically, due to the pandemic, which hit us really bad, that's something that's now completely normalized. People can move around. They can spend a few weeks here, a few months there, and work from anywhere. And these were things. At the same time, there was one trend that we really thought about was how real estate was becoming an asset rather than just homes. And at the same time, the demands from the customers, from consumers, was going to change substantially. People wanted more flexible solutions. They wanted the ability to be in different locations. So today you see that a huge amount of people are moving from one city to another, and, compared to 50 years ago, or they're moving to a different country, and they're able to bring their social networks and their professional networks with them, because they can work remotely and they have the internet to connect to family and friends. And those were the trends that even though our business failed many times over and over again, those trends stayed, and they stay strong even today.
Amazing. So let's go further into the platform itself. So Hostaway. So tell us a little bit more about the company.
Yeah, so it's we've got a platform that pretty much runs the entire back end. When I try to explain it to people who know nothing about short-term rentals, I always imagine an airport. You go to the check-in desk, and they ask you for your passport and your ticket or number, and then they print your boarding pass. That way they know that you have left the luggage and so on. There's someone designing that software that's on those computers. And that's exactly what our software does. It's only for vacation rentals. And one thing that makes it very different from hotels is that with a hotel, first of all, the expectations from the guests, let's say you're staying at the Hilton in Chicago, the expectations you have for that, they're going to be met. For example, when you check Google Maps, you find Hilton in Chicago, you go there, the hotel is actually there. And it's pretty big, you see it. And they have a sign that says Hilton on the door. And you know that if your pillow is uncomfortable, you can call them and they'll bring you a different pillow. You know that already. When it comes to vacation rentals, every property is unique. But what makes it even more difficult is not only are the properties unique and the guest expectations are unique, but the locations are also different. So you can't have a front desk. In a hotel, you can have 400 rooms, and anyone who has a question, they can come to the front desk. Hey, where can I buy some painkillers? Where's a good restaurant? You can go to the front desk and ask that. In vacation rentals, everything is distributed. There's no front desk. So that's the function, and that's the reason why technology is so much more necessary when it comes to vacation rentals rather than hotels, because you don't have the live staff on the ground. Because if you're renting a cottage in the forest, where's that live staff even gonna stay?
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna be miles away when you need them, and that's why you need communication tools, you need automation tools to make sure everything works.
Tell us a little bit more about the demographic for who actually uses the software. So is this appropriate for somebody with, one rental, or do you have to have a whole lot of them? Is it enterprise only? Like, give us a feel for that.
Really good question, because our competitive landscape is actually divided into all three segments. So there's solutions for those who have just one property, and for many of those they see it as a lifestyle. They're really proud of this property. They maintain it really well, and they like to rent it out and make money on the side. They often want something to build a website. They want something to automate, to remove the hassle of the daily operations. Then we have the smaller owner operators that have between 5 and 10 properties. Often they own a couple of properties themselves, but then they also manage properties. Usually they start by managing their friends' properties, but then they advertise to everyone, hey, I can manage your property as well, and you can make money on the side without any work. And then we got these really big operators. Our biggest customer has 7,000 properties in 6 countries. We're mostly focused on the mid segment here. So companies or individuals that either have multiple properties or manage multiple properties on behalf of others. But we do have a large group of customers who are very happy with even one property. But usually they are the ones who are looking for a very, very good tool with excellent support. And we're known for having the best support in the industry. I learned a new term this week. It's called prosumer. It's someone who's a consumer, but they don't want to use the amateur tools. They want to use the professional tools. And you see this, I like playing guitars, and some people say, I'm an amateur guitar player, so I'm going to buy an amateur guitar. But then some say, yeah, I'm an amateur, but I want the professional one. I want the best guitar there is. And then they go out and buy it. And that's part of the market we serve as well.
Oh man, I love it. Learn something new every day on the show, Marcus. A prosumer. I'm in. That's a great term. I'm in. And I see it. And the guitar analogy is perfect because I would be that type as well. I'd be like, well, I know, but that's the one I want. So I get it. for all the other prosumers out there, right?
Exactly.
So, Marcus, I have to ask you. So, what's next? What's on the horizon for Hostaway? I mean, you're obviously doing well, taking market share there. You're now, as you mentioned, there's competitors in the landscape, but like, what's next? What's next for the vision for the company?
Well, like I said, we want to be the market leader, but I guess our vision is getting outdated because we're likely going to hit that next year. However, there's a disclaimer here. As it is a new market, our market share and let's say our biggest competitor's market share in any subsegment will be ridiculously small. There's a massive amount of solutions available, including Excel, one of our biggest competitors still. But we will just continue growing because this is really exciting when we see how we have become very quickly so incredibly big. But still, when we look at the absolute market share and the number of potential customers out there, the market is massive, which is ironically, when we were pitching to investors years ago, that was their main concern. Is the total addressable market big enough? But I think at least after COVID and the real estate development in the last 10 years, it's pretty obvious that this is, yeah, short-term rentals, vacation rentals, they're here to stay.
It's awesome. If somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about Hostaway, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, we have a service guarantee. We will put you, no matter how big or small your business is, we'll put you in front of a live person with us within 1 hour if you sign up on our website, hostaway.com. And if you do choose to go with our solution, we also guide you through the setup. So we got real people setting up the system together with you. And if we fail to provide you with a live person within 1 hour, I will personally get on a call, which doesn't happen a lot because we have a really great sales team and great onboarding team, but that's our service promise. So head on to hostaway.com.
Fantastic, and we'll put all that information in the show notes, and so that the audience can just click on the episode and notes and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time listening to an episode or engaging with the Mission Matters platform, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, and experts and having them share their background, their business, how they do what they're doing, why they do it, and the mission behind it. If that's the type of content that you're into, or it sounds interesting or engaging, hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Marcus, really, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. Wishing you much more continuous success, and thanks again for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.